Ooh, visitation dreams. I just said I wasn't going to do anything spooky and paranormal, and here I am mocking myself. I'm a dork. I can't help it. Okay, week number 2. Hello, and thanks for tuning in. Wearing the same shirt as I was in week number 1 because I'm filming these back to back. Aha! Smart. So, this week, wanted to talk about visitation dreams. That's one of the biggest questions that people have for me is how do I tell whether someone in spirit had visited me during the night's sleep or if it was just all in my head. A few points that emerge that differentiate a visitation dream from a regular subconsciously generated dream. You get a degree of lucidity during the dream. You're asking questions like, hey, wait a second, didn't you die? Or, hey, last I saw you, you were in the hospital. Is this real? And you start to kind of come back into consciousness. That's pre-lucidity, right? Lucid dreaming, fully lucid dreaming would be like, hey, I'm having a dream. I don't want to be taking a test in school in my socks and underwear. I want to be flying a, flaming unicorn over the Andes Mountains, and that's lucidity. Pre-lucidity means that the dream content is still very similar, but you start to become aware and interact with it on a more conscious level. So, visitation dreams usually stand apart from regular dreams in that you get this element of pre-lucidity, right? So point number 2 would be that there's some sort of communication that happens between you and this person in spirit, right? Like an interaction. So it doesn't have to be words or phrases or an actual spoken thing that the person in spirit is communicating. It can be a look. It can be something about their face or their eyes or just a smile, a wave, a wink, something that communicates, I'm all right. There's a general well-being here, that everything's okay, that I never died, right? So this comes up to point number 3. The person in spirit will not really acknowledge death in any way. So a lot of times people are confused because they'll have this dream about their loved one and it's like they're going about their business as if they never died, right? So when I came into this, I was 13 years old and my grandmother passed away. She was really close with me, so I was devastated. And I'd have these dreams where she's like watching the Wheel of Fortune, she's playing solitaire. The dream would end when I would try to impose on my grandmother an idea of I need this question to be answered. How are you here? I need a resolution to this. Didn't you die? And then I'd wake up. And I realized I was waking up then because, according to my grandmother, she never died. We think of it as death, but to get the person in spirit to wrap their head around it, that'll usually wake you up and lose the connection. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not commenting on their transition, right? So instead of saying, that they died and they want to walk you through all the gory and morbid details of their passing, maybe they passed of cancer, maybe there was some kind of ailment that really took a toll on them physically, usually they're not going to comment on that, right? Now, if there is a dream where someone in spirit is commenting on that, that's an immediate red flag to me that this is your own subconscious generating dreams in order for you to cope with the person's passing. So if you wake up from a dream and it's just this horrible, heavy, horrible feeling of coffins and being buried alive and digging through it and all, this is your emotional state that you feel buried alive, that you're digging through it. So it's not necessarily someone in spirit visiting you when that happens. However, they can comment on their transition, like I say, so that they will say things like, I'm good now, right? I beat that cancer, or I feel like $1,000,000 now. I feel 20 years younger. They can say things like that and it still be a visitation dream because the reality of the afterlife is you project whatever image that you feel best about, right? So in the spirit world, in a visitation dream, they may look a little younger, they may look a little different. That's a clue that the person in spirit is actually there visiting you. Similarly, you may have a visitation dream where you're a child again, and that person in spirit is there. This represents a shared dream space, right? So the details of your dream are being generated both by your mind, but also by the mental projection of that person in spirit to create this tapestry of an experience during the dream state. So you being younger or you living in a different house is how they emotionally connect to you. The part of their memories that gives the greatest emotional significance that allows them to tap into where you are. That's why it generates that way. There's an emotional punch, right? This kind of surge of deep emotions waking you up. So that's the biggest indicator to me. When it's the very last dream that you had right before you wake up, that's commonly reported. Everybody that says they have a visitation dream, almost always, it's the last dream right before you wake up in the morning. And the way that you wake up is not a gradual, maybe I had that dream, maybe I didn't. I'd like to go back into it. Wait, I forgot the details. It is crystal clear. It is powerful. Often people will wake up crying, missing the person more. There's this huge emotional surge. That's indicative of someone in spirit visiting you in the dream state. Whereas if it was a dream that you had in the middle of the night and you didn't wake up and it kind of led into another dream, you thought you saw the person in spirit there, but then next thing you know, you're at some carnival that turns into work and there's this coworker there, and then you're like, wait, where was the person in spirit was in there? Was that before or after? And you're trying to figure it all out when you wake up, thinking it was kind of there, but it's slipping through your fingers and you can't remember the details. Again, it could be that someone in spirit is present in your bedroom at night, just kind of watching over you, checking in on you, but is not deliberately, willfully trying to enter into your dream state. Or it could be that that connection's just not happening, right? People often pray very earnestly and sincerely to be visited by a loved one who has passed on, and it doesn't always work. What's really weird about the visitation dream, I don't know the science behind it, but I feel that there is a science behind it. Here it could be a mother who lost a daughter, and the daughter is not visiting the mother, but visiting all these other people, and the mother is grief-stricken and just wants to know, why can't I have a visitation dream of my daughter? In that case, I would say to her, check your own emotional place. If the grief is so raw and so heavy, it's going to be harder for that daughter to connect. Not impossible, but it might be easier for her to connect to that cousin or friend or coworker. And that's kind of how it works. And then there's also some people, just the way that they sleep makes it harder for those in spirit to visit them. So it could be someone who's a really heavy sleeper, right? But alternatively, it could be somebody who's a very light sleeper. All it takes is someone in spirit entering into that space where they're sleeping and they wake right up. They look around the room, they don't know what's going on, maybe they feel a presence, maybe they don't, but it just didn't happen, right? So there is kind of a neurological chemistry going on in the brain of some people that are just more open and susceptible to receiving a visitation dream. Certainly praying in your own way, it can't hurt, you know? Whether that's a very rigid traditional prayer or whether it's just quietly closing your eyes before you sleep and kind of going deep within and repeating it in your head. Whoever, Mom, I want you to visit me tonight in my sleep. And really putting it out there. If you do that night after night after night, eventually the person in spirit will hear you. Something will happen, okay? I don't promise that if you do that, they will visit you in a visitation dream and make that real. Again, there's a science behind it. I don't know if it's possible for that particular person in spirit. Maybe your kind of brain isn't open to that experience, but doing that prayer before you go to sleep every night will generate something. It will generate something, I guarantee it. Whether that's something's moved in your room, there's a beautiful sunset or a rainbow, or you get a phone call, or something will happen to prove that that person in spirit has heard your prayer. So it's worth trying. And for those of you who have had experiences, I encourage you to share these experiences with your friends and family. You might be afraid of how they kind of judge you or criticize you because they themselves did not have that experience. But I can assure you, just talking about it, no matter how they react to you in the minute, they will hear what you're saying and kind of take it away and think about it, and it might actually open them up to having the experience themselves. So I don't think that's a bad thing. Anything that allows us to feel close to those who have passed away, I think can only be a good thing. So thank you again for watching. Like and subscribe and do the doohickeys that you do. And I'm going to learn more about this YouTube thing, and we're going to figure it out. So if you want to subscribe to get updates on when the new videos are posting, check it out. There's like the subscribe button. I can be that guy that's like, smash that like button. Pew, pew, pew. I'm not going to be that guy. I just did it, so I am that guy. Oof.